This video is brought to you by Devout Decals, makers of reusable Catholic art for your home altar, your bedroom, and your home classroom. There's a certain unifying theme in the writings of the saints, in their personal diaries, not necessarily in their public lectures or whatever, but in their diaries and their very personal, private writings that get made public after their passing. And that is the concept of spiritual warfare, that they are in a battle for their soul against the devil. They are aware of the activities of Satan in their lives. We should all be aware of these things, but the saints had an especially clear awareness of this. And it was that awareness that I suspect, combined with faith, that made them into the saints that they were. Being aware, they knew what to do: to get on their knees and pray, to fast, to abstain, to engage in self-denial, acts of mortification, those offered up for the salvation of their soul and for the salvation of others. That is the stuff of saints. Padre Pio was no different. You are about to hear from his diaries, his accounts of the battles he waged in his life against Satan, who he said tormented him constantly. I cannot steady my spirit sufficiently to enable me to tell you all that has been happening to me recently, since during this time the devil has been waging war on me more intensely than ever. I am not able to repulse the deceptions that the enemy of salvation directs against me. Who then, my Father, will free me from so many temptations and from so many anxieties? Who will console me? Who would believe that even during the hours of rest one might be anxious? Well, my Father, I can assure you that even these hours have become very bitter to me. I find a little peace in thinking and reading your teachings, but these are brief instants, as the enemy is always vigilant, always present right from the start. The spiritual struggles, compared with what I am suffering in the body, are very much greater, though even the body's suffering itself increases continually. I would wish, dear Father, I do not ask for a lot, for at least 1 hour of rest a day, but let the most holy and most lovable will of God always be done in me, and all round me, in all and for all, because this is what has been my support. The devil wants me for himself at any cost. If I were not Christian, all that I am suffering would lead me to believe myself to be already overcome. I do not know for what reason God has not yet been moved to pity me and free me from it. I knew only this, however, that he does not work in us without most holy aims which are for our benefit. And now, Father, for the love of Jesus Christ and of our beautiful and sorrowful Virgin, if I have something in my heart that does not please God, even though it be small, tell me about it so that I can tear it out, regardless of cost. Who knows if this suffering that God has permitted might not be a punishment for the things still in me that sicken him? If I do not first remove these, will God not be moved to pity? I am sure that you, knowing me to be in so much wretchedness, will pray to the Lord for me so that he might at least spare me in the spiritual struggles, as the causes for offending him are many. The prayer, of course, has the usual condition, if it be for the greater glory of his divine majesty and the advantage of my soul. The Apostle James exhorts souls to rejoice when they are harassed by various storms and numerous contradictions. My brothers and sisters, whenever you face trials of any kind, consider it nothing but joy. The reason is that in the struggle there is the crown, and the more the soul fights, the more the palms of victory multiply. Knowing that every victory gained corresponds to a level of eternal glory, how, O Father, can one not rejoice to see oneself committed to gaining many during the course of one's life? I do not know how to thank our dear Jesus, who gives me much strength and courage to bear not only the many infirmities that he sends me, but also the continuous temptations which he unfortunately allows and which go on multiplying from day to day. These temptations make me tremble from head to foot at the thought of offending God. I hope that the future may at least resemble the past in that I do not become a victim of them. My Father, this suffering is too much for me. I implore the Lord that he might at least deign to change it for some other, even at the cost of doubling it. You know very well that my spiritual wars are very many, and this certainly wouldn't worry me if I could know whether or not I was free of offending God. But what really worries me is not being able to tell whether I have consented to the temptations or not. Truly, I am currently resolved rather to willfully give myself up to be a thorn into 1,000 pieces than to let myself offend God one single time. I turn to my confessor, and there I get a little peace. But a little later, Here we are once again. It seems to me that at times I feel the need for confession, but have hardly anything to say to the confessor. I remember nothing specific. Also at the altar, my Father, God alone knows how much violence I need to do to myself to avoid sinning again. It is also true, however, that the devil gives himself no peace in his efforts to make me lose peace of soul, and to lessen the great trust I have in divine mercy. He principally strives to obtain this through continual temptations against holy purity, which he causes to arise in my imagination without ceasing, and even at times through a simple glance at things which, if not holy, are at least indifferent. All of this I laugh at, like something not worth bothering about, following your advice. It does not distress me, however, in certain moments, that I am not certain whether at the first assault of the enemy I was ready to resist. I am certain that as I examine myself now, I would prefer death rather than to deliberately offend my dear Jesus with a single sin, however light. There are certain moments in which I am assailed by violent temptations against the faith. I am certain that the will is not moved, but the imagination is so inflamed and presents the temptation in such bright colors that the mind wanders, and sin is presented as a thing that is not only indifferent, but delightful. From here those thoughts arise, thoughts of discouragement, of suspicion, and even, do not be horrified, Father, for charity's sake, blasphemous thoughts. I am terrified when faced with such a struggle. I tremble and force myself always, and I am certain that through the grace of God I do not fail. In recent days my soul has yet again descended into hell. Yet again the Lord has exposed me to the fury of Satan. I mean that this infamous apostate wants to tear from my heart that which is most sacred in it, faith. By day he assails at all times. He makes sleep bitter to me by night. Up to this moment of my writing, I have a full awareness that I have yielded nothing to him, but in the future, I feel that my will is attached firmly to its God, but I must also confess that my physical and moral strength becomes weaker and weaker because of the continual struggle. And that was a short excerpt of Padre Pio describing the constant spiritual warfare that he was enduring. The fight was for his soul, for his faith, for his sanctity. He knew that the devil never gives up trying to tempt us, regardless of our state in life. In fact, those who have achieved greater sanctity are often the biggest prizes for falling from grace. If you've ever resisted whatever it is that sends you to the confessional over and over again, since according to most confessors, the typical Catholic goes to confession for the same one or two sins in their life, whatever those sins are, pretty much 90% of the time. If you've gone a long time in your life without having given into those temptations to fall into whatever those sins are, and then you find yourself after a few months going back, feeling greatly defeated, know that it is because you had made some great progress that the devil focused on you especially, or that it was your own pride that was your own doing. It's been the case in my life. Probably has been the case of others too. You must always be aware of the sins, even those fleeting ones, as St. Padre Pio described in that writing of his. He spoke about even the fleeting glances at indifferent things and the temptation that comes from within there. It sounds hard to imagine. It sounds like a lot's being asked of us. That's why they call it heroic virtue. Let me know what you thought of this in the comments, please. Do you find this helpful? These writings from Padre Pio? Curious what you have to say, so let me know in the comments, and hit like and subscribe if you haven't. It does help. So does sharing this on social media. That helps too. And as always, pray for the church. I'm Anthony Stine. Ave Maria.